panel host and taking us through this session. Eduard, you're welcome.
Recording in progress.
Thank you very much, Noah. Thank you very much, the Innovation Village, for an absolute pleasure. And I should say thank you very much to Uganda for having us here. Savannah Group, you've been wonderful. It's been a pleasure being here. You've hosted us extremely well, giving us an incredible vision of the country and making us feel at home. This is an absolute opportunity, definitely for us, and I hope for all of us, in order to be able to share our thoughts, experiences, and more importantly, what are the needs of this wonderful Ugandan blockchain ecosystem. So the way we're going to organize this panel is, first I'm going to briefly explain who I am, what is my organization, the one I work for, GeoA, the GeoAnalytics Center, an organization I founded. Then we'll do a brief presentation of each of the panelists. And the objective of this presentation is not to give a big overview, it's just to present yourself very, very briefly. Who are you? What are you doing? There'll be plenty of time for you to go into the details. That's right. So let's make sure we keep this one short, and I will be very strict with the time. It's just, who are you? What are you doing? And then, once we've done that, we will hand it off to Noah, who will give us a brief presentation of, we're talking about the future of blockchain, but we need to kick it off today. So Noah will be giving us an overview of where we stand today in order to set the base. This will be followed by Tony, or I should say perhaps Apuli, right? Tony is, we're very lucky to have Tony here. He is with Polygon Hermez, which is, as you know, one of the largest chains that is currently existing in our ecosystem. And what Tony will do is he will be linking after where we stand today, the trends in Uganda, where the industry is going. So we will have both sides. And this will then allow us as a group to see where Uganda will be going. So we know where we are today, we will know where the industry is going with a good introduction of one of the main chains in the industry, and then we will all be able to kick in and participate and see where our own ecosystem, the Ugandan ecosystem, is going. Once we've done that, this, guys, will be your chance. You will each have 5 minutes to tell us again, but in more detail, who you are, what you do, but more importantly, why. You're talented, you have many options, there's a lot you could do, there are many industries, but you picked blockchain, you picked to support the Ugandan ecosystem and make it stronger. So what's driving you? Why are you here? What keeps you going? Yes? And then, of course, we'll dive into what we're here for, and in view of the comments that have been made, you can tell us, how do you see the Ugandan ecosystem right now? Where is it going? But most importantly, what are the needs? What are the challenges? How can we all together work in order to overcome those challenges? Is it funding opportunities? Is it developers? Is it a cultural issue that people are still not getting it? Who knows? And we're very, very keen to learning from you. This is not about us saying things, it's about us learning together about this ecosystem and how we can make it move forward and become much more mainstream. And once we've done that, we will be able to have a discussion over a few questions as we move forward for around 30 minutes, after which we will have a discussion with the floor. So in order to start, my name is Eduard Peris, as I said, and I run the GeoAnalytics Center, which is an NGO whose objective is to link the development world, traditional development programs, with technological components. And blockchain is definitely one of them. There's a lot of talk that blockchain should go beyond DeFi. There's a big opportunity for us to make sure that blockchain supports society as a whole. And this is the mission of our organization that works across Africa, trying to make that bridge with people like you. So perhaps now we can briefly I will briefly hand over the microphone I think we can go from right to left.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Morning, everyone. My name is Peter. My name is Peter Kakoma, and I lead the team at Kanzu Code Limited, where we build solutions for businesses and communities. Particularly in crypto, we have a wallet that allows people to save with a stable coin.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Orban Martin Luther. I'm the technical lead at Refactory. And at Refactory, we are training talent in the IT sector. Blockchain is one of them that we are training for. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mutuzo Irene Esther, and I'm the head of business growth and PR at Diwala. At Diwala, we are leveraging blockchain technology to build a platform that enables the issuance and verification of digital credentials, and we will be talking more about it. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Thea Sommerseth. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Diwala, which Irene just explained. I'm blessed to be here and working with so many great people. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Umar Sebyala, and I'm the ecosystem lead at C Labs for Uganda, working on Celo. Celo is a blockchain platform that is on a mission to build a financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for everyone. And I'm very passionate about our mission. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. My name is Antoni Martin. I'm Polygon Enterprise Lead for Polygon, but coming from the Hermez company that basically it was a company focused on the development of zero knowledge proof technologies. And yes, happy to be here and to have this discussion. Thanks for the opportunity.
Again, my name is Noah. I am the head of the technology business at Savannah. And at Savannah, we build products and solutions built on blockchain that solve problems in identity, in finance, in supply chain, and in digital assets. And I'm glad to be here.
This is impressive. I haven't had to intervene once, and every panelist has already spoken. So I think we're off to a very, very good start. This is very rare indeed. Thank you very much. Noah, first question, as we said, would be going for you. We have had the chance to visit Uganda, travel across Uganda over the last few days, and enjoying meeting many people of the ecosystem. Where are we before we start looking at where we want to go in Uganda with blockchain? Where do we stand?
So it's so the blockchain story in Uganda. Of course, we're looking through our lens, and our lens is not by means representative of the whole country. But I would say it starts at around 2015 when we started hearing more about crypto. Crypto started becoming mainstream. People are talking about blockchain. People are talking about Bitcoin. And our story, particularly for Savannah, began when we started engaging, trying to bring crypto to the market. Because at that time, apart from small, accounts, I remember at some point I was the only Ugandan account on local Bitcoins. So it was interesting and so we said it can't be this difficult to get Bitcoin in Uganda. And so we built an exchange to allow Ugandans to directly access crypto. But through the process of building the exchange, we discovered that there's this whole world of blockchain. And we began rallying members to see how well we can consolidate, because there's a lot of scams, a lot of misinformation. There is still misinformation. But just being able to set the record straight and what the potential was. So we grouped up with the community and formed the Blockchain Association of Uganda, and together we hosted the Africa Blockchain Conference in 2018, which was an immense success. We had representatives from 33 countries, over 1,000 delegates, and 2 heads of state. And in that conference, amongst the drama that unfolded there, we were able to solidify a stance as an industry, and they took us seriously. And since then, we have been engaging the financial sector, the Bank of Uganda, still around blockchain and crypto. Even though many of them are still skeptical about crypto, they still don't understand where its value is. But what can be said is that the value of blockchain has been fully understood, at least at a governmental level. We have, even at a corporate level, all the major banks have not only plans, but they have already deploying blockchains in their core and peripheral networks. We know from a government perspective, we know of about 3 or 4 projects that are already underway using blockchain in different spaces. I know one of the most prominent one is our revenue authority, as it upgrades its e-tax, is keenly looking to see how it can integrate blockchain into that. Uganda Communications Commission, URSB, and many other organizations are looking keenly into blockchain. So the government is pro-blockchain. What also the story of crypto is also changing. In 2016, Uganda almost banned Bitcoin in following suit from Kenya, but through, of course, integrating with the community, understanding it, it took a position of watch and learn until 2020, December, where our Financial Intelligence Authority passed regulations that recognized virtual asset service providers, which in our world, those are crypto companies. And so it is not regulation, but it's recognition at an official state. And Uganda is one of the only countries in Africa that recognize crypto freely to operate. We're not the biggest market, by no means. There's Kenya, there's Nigeria, but the states and the regulation there is very cloudy, or if not antagonistic towards crypto. So Uganda has come a long way in presenting itself as a destination for crypto and for blockchain investment, because we have a conducive environment, at least from a regulatory standpoint, and we have a very curious innovation space. That's why we have all these companies that are now starting to build solutions on that. So that's a bit of a history and to where we are right now, and the story is unfolding even better. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Tony, you've been listening to Noah, you've been traveling across Uganda the last few days. You work with Polygon Hermez. Where do you see this going? Can you perhaps first tell us a bit what Polygon is doing, and in view of what you're hearing of Uganda, what the links are between the future, or what you're seeing are the broader trends in the industry with the opportunities that Uganda is presenting today?
Yes, I will try my best. But here, yes, at the end, Polygon is a chain of chains. I mean, it's on top of Ethereum, and it allows to transact huge amounts or huge volumes of DeFi, NFT on top of a main chain. Then, when I look to what we see or what we have here, there are four main trends in the current world that I will try to translate to the Uganda reality. No? First of all is scalability. I think this was the main problem of Ethereum and the ecosystem 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it seemed it was impossible to scale in a decentralized way. Nowadays, with optimism or roll-ups or other solutions, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. Is not yet there, but we are in the right direction. And theoretically, this problem is solved. Now we need to make it real. This, in the case of Uganda, I see a huge or a possible use case with payments platform, with these young populations so used to mobile payments that they are not using brick and mortar banks. I mean, they directly transact on the streets, and there is no this infrastructure. That could be something really tangible. The second trend that it's already being discussed in all the conferences, in all this is like the next mind-blowing is related with identity. That's what everybody now that they see that the scalability is solved is the next big problem. Okay, privacy, how ensure the protection data, how we try to create digital identities with claims or reputation from other people, how we create a proper KYC channel, but without scrapping or stealing all the data from the consumer. Then, yes, here I see also that one society like Uganda that it's so dynamic, also in specific fields as refugee settlement can be something really useful, and I think I see a lot of solutions popping up and with people trying to figure out a solution for this problem. Then also when you go to the conferences, there is always like another mainstream that is related a little bit with blockchain for good, but also adoption, how we arrive to the next billion users. Here I see, well, there are two. One is DeFi, it's obvious. I mean, Celo, for example, it's also a very good solution on this front. I mean, we need adoption. I see a lot of friction points, and I include here myself, and I think I'm a little bit an expert, but sometimes when you are with a ledger or you need to transact and MetaMask is not working, or there are hundreds of problems that you collapse. And I can never imagine my grandma or my I mean, doing that. I mean, that's really a challenge that we have for the next billion. I think we should be focused on that, and I know people is working on that, of course, but we should be realistic. And the other, obviously, is training, no? And how we educate people. We need developers. We see the scarcity of developers that there is around the world. We don't find developers. I mean, it's impossible. And now you should pay amounts that are not decent, or that makes that your business is not sustainable, which more or less could be the same. And here, a young population that when yesterday we passed through the technological university, I saw the campus. I mean, I think there is raw material brain here, we can say, or people eager to do these things. That will be where, maybe I'm nobody to give an advice, no, but if I can give an advice to Uganda is to build up this base, because this is what will trigger all the other use cases in the future, no? Then, yes, these are the four main things. Obviously, the fifth one that I can add, that now there are the quadratic funds on donations, on Gitcoin. I mean, people is eager to support projects that makes a little bit sense, and there are platforms, as I say, like Gitcoin, but also if you approach, obviously if you approach Polygon, but also if you approach Celo, Cardano, there are other solutions that they have funds to try to support entrepreneurs. I think that could be also a very good option. But again, if you don't have the skills and the knowledge, you are not going to be able to do it. No? Then in a nutshell, these are for me the 4-5 main trends, and how this applies to one country like this one.
Noah, Tony, thank you very much. This gives us a wonderful starting point. And what we'll do now is go from left to right, following the panel. So it's your time to give us your overview. We'll start with Peter. If you can give us your thoughts on the industry, where it is, where it's going.
Okay, thank you very much. I feel it's in many ways still in its early phases. We are starting to see some use cases being tested out, but we don't quite have a success story, so to speak of, that can be pointed at. We have early signs of a light and certain things being done in the different spaces, like as Noah pointed out, but it's more of really the first signs. So there are really so many ways it could go. Also in terms of the number of people in this space, you have a lot of interest, but there are still not as many companies that are jumping the gun, and it's from a lot of different perspectives, even, for example, the shortage of the developers, and generally also the commercial aspect, making it work, also the education aspect, getting the people to accept. And I think one of the hurdles is probably how the platforms being put out could be marketed. So there are certain aspects of the moment you mention cryptocurrency in particular spaces, walls go up in certain spaces for certain customer segments. And it's one of the things we've experienced, even us, with our product, where we are making it possible for people to save with a stable coin. If you just say, I'm allowing you to save in USD, it's a different conversation. If you switch and mention the word cryptocurrency backed, then so we've learned to just focus on saying we're allowing you to save in USD. Yeah, it just makes the conversation a lot easier. Yeah, so I feel it's very early stages for the ecosystem. There are a lot of possibilities, but I feel it's very early stages. And I look forward to seeing things in, with the national ID, things that are already being rolled out, with the land registry, the aspects that are taking place there. So you have the government side making moves, you also have the private sector making moves, but we don't yet have big use cases that people can say, the same way I can use mobile money to do A, B, C, D, this kind of transfer, I can seamlessly do that on USSD with my phone, but it's backed by cryptocurrency. So now I have the confidence to take on a product from another company that is doing something similar. Yeah.
Before I pass it on to the next panelist, can you give us a few words on Kanzu code?
So Kanzu code particularly, so we build digital solutions for communities and businesses, and that ranges from e-learning platforms to a platform that we have for circles and investment clubs, which is really groups of people saving together collectively. And then we also train, we have an a foundation that discovers and trains young people in software engineering skills. And particularly on this, in cryptocurrency, we added a feature that allows now groups, those circles and investment clubs, to save in USD, and behind the scenes really, it's a stable coin. We're using the CUSD to make this possible for people. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and you're within your 5 minutes with keeping impressive timing. Orban Martin Luther, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I believe and I agree completely with Peter and what Noah have said in terms of where the ecosystem is and where it is heading to. As a training program, we work with partners like Peter and then Diwala and C-Lab and the rest to identify what exactly is the need in the market, and then we model our modules based on the actual need from the market. In the past, we have tried to work on a project that was backed up by blockchain in the financial ecosystem, and our students really struggled. When we handed over the project or the product to them to build, they struggled as the result of lack of skill set that was required to build the product that they were supposed to work on. We experimented with the first cohort, we experimented with the second cohort, we discovered the same. And then we said, so why can't we base on building capacity instead of them being consumers of technology, why can't they be innovators of technology? And that is where Refactory stands. We have currently, we have tried to model 3 seminars that are targeting blockchain training, and we have seen massive response to those seminars, and have personally also received a lot of emails after, that is to tell you where the ecosystem is going. There is desire, the yearning is there, the need is there, and everybody is now beginning to embrace the opportunities of the blockchain technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We next have Irene from Diwala.
Thank you very much. Now, I get very excited, particularly because today when we talk about blockchain technology and all the social media platforms, people want to know more about it. People are interested in knowing about it, which shows that, you know, before when you say blockchain technology, it could almost sound like Greek, but people are aware of what it can do. However, you know, and in all these conversations, we noticed that blockchain technology is very, I could say, related to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So you find that when you talk about blockchain, people don't know that it can do a lot more. And for us, as Diwala, we are leveraging blockchain out of cryptocurrency. And one would ask why. And I just love to give this short story about an experience I've gone through myself to show the need for this type of technology.
Please.
So in 2019, I completed my master's degree. And by the time 2020 came, the COVID pandemic was around. At that time, I was still waiting to receive my credentials. And because all the institutions were closed, I didn't have this digital credential. I had to wait over 8 months to be able to get that credential. And within those 8 months, there's no way I could apply for a job. And I'm not the only one facing a challenge. So many institutions are worried about their credentials being tampered with. Then when you go to the HR sector, where I've also worked, you find that a lot of HRs are getting credentials that have been tampered with, and they're taking a lot of time when it comes to verification. And what we do as Diwala is that we provide a platform that enables, first of all, institutions, and now that we are seeing that this need is greater, it's not just education institutions, but also other organizations that need to issue digital credentials safely. So we give them that platform. Then secondly, for the recipients of these credentials, who could be alumni like I am, they can be able to receive their credentials anywhere at any time. I do not have to worry about losing my certificate, about losing the credential, and for anyone else who would like to verify it, an employer, an investor, an authority, they can be able to do it very easily in seconds. And as we communicate this, we have also understood that, you know, when you're trying to speak to people and you're trying to explain to them what the platform does, you don't go in with technical language like blockchain technology, Ethereum, eHash. People will ask, what is that? You have to explain it from the angle of the problem. You know, what is this technology providing them? How is it going to make their lives easier? And in that way, you're able to get through to them. Then I could say the other challenge that we also need to deal with, and he is an example of his grandma. At the end of the day, we as Diwala want to enable each and everyone to receive credentials. That is, you know, the person who is very digitally literate, the person who is not so digitally literate. So the challenge there is, how do we also bridge this gap between my grandmother and myself?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much for such a compelling story. And we continue with Diwala. Yeah.
So I will start with why I do what I do, because you asked for it. And I think one, personally, is because I have a fundamental deep passion to enable African talent and showcase African talent, such as Irene here. Like, it's hard for me to not be proud in this moment, because it's such, I've seen firsthand living and working across Africa since I was 18. And the first thing I started with is, how can we build a tool to actually showcase that talent, right? With the fundamental value of one being, okay, proving who you are and what you are doing. So that's the purpose of what we're doing, to do two things, and that is enabling access to jobs and enabling access to finance. With Diwala, we've seen specifically now over the past 18 months that specifically for small to medium-sized businesses, right? Even to be building now a different kind of credential for a startup, understanding what kind of competence they have, getting more like the diligence that's going through, to make sure that we can also leverage that kind of accessibility to the digital economy and funding. So that's one of the biggest use cases we've seen now. We work with Stanbic Business Incubator and the way they're training SMEs across Uganda, which is an excellent use case of showing how we need to build, really build that craft, right? I think for us, the challenge that we see is what Irene is really mentioning. It's, well, if we sit there and talk to the Education Service Commission, and how are they going to issue, they're going to do an aptitude test with 5,000 teachers in a hall. And then we have teachers that also haven't touched a computer, right? So we need to work together collectively to understand what is the really core essence of what people need to know about technology. That's very little. What we need to do is actually build more trust to it, you know? And I think by doing so, we need to build also the product and services
with a core ethos to make sure that they're actually able to use it, non-dependent, what kind of phone they have, right? What kind of access to data they have, power, these things, because it needs to be inclusive first. And that's really important for us. The challenge that we've seen as a part of that is also collaboration, right? Sometimes actors move forward with business first, saying that, okay, we are going to be the main player here. This is not core to what we believe in. Even within the blockchain space, you know, we are trying to create greater interoperability between platforms, making sure that we can communicate in the digital space in a different way. And that we need to have these kind of conversations, right? So that's one. The second is, as Irene mentioned also, like how do we communicate it in a way that we also need to understand we need to start. Sometimes people just want finished products, specifically if you're selling it also. But that's not the way we should build it. We should build it, like Martin mentioned, for people first. Also with the kind of culture and behavior that is here, not something that's coming from Norway or the US, what is here? And that's also a real principle that we stand by.
Thank you very much. Umar.
Thank you very much. It's been very insightful listening to my colleagues here talking about where we are in the blockchain space. Coming in from somebody working as an ecosystem lead, my work is around business development. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm trying to get people to understand what blockchain is and how we can be able to work together. So if somebody asks, where do we currently stand in as far as adoption or where we currently are, to me, it's just the very beginning. It's very early days. The page is still blank, and we're simply writing down the very first letter. Now, this comes when you look at what we currently have, say, looking at Uganda, a very young population that has a future that is, I wouldn't say in doubt, but it's not really defined. People don't really know where they will be, say, 5 years from now. And this comes down to them getting maybe stuck from, say, there's COVID now, or there were some issues that there was famine at a certain point, or something like that. So all these issues kind of compound to give you a demographic of individuals who are open to exploring things. So the future, for the case of Uganda, will be anchored with the youth, and this is kind of the target demographic that we need to work with. They are extremely intelligent, extremely curious, and extremely open-minded, as you can actually be able to have a conversation with any of them. I could actually talk about myself, being an ecosystem lead. My background was in telecommunications. I used to work with Uganda Telecom, so as you know, at some point. So, so coming from the telecom sector, I was able to get exposure to technology early on. I understand connections, things to do with internet IP addresses, and all that. So because I had this open-minded attitude to tech, once I got to know about blockchain, it was simply understanding the next level. So I can easily replicate this to any individual that I know within this country, because people are willing to know what the next big thing is. So if we build these rails that can bring them on board, make them user-friendly, make them interoperable, we can be able to have a success story that will see success for humanity. So the idea of having these gated communities whereby each blockchain is in a silo is really not the way forward. And for the case of Celo, we are working on an cross-chain interoperable protocol called Optics, which is building a chain, a bridge from Celo to Ethereum fast. So once this goes live, it will be a real-world use case of what can be done once you bridge two different worlds, and you can be able to move digital assets from Celo to Ethereum, and this can be replicated to any other ecosystem. So interoperability and collaboration is the future, and from where I stand right now, it's extremely early days, and the future is bright. That's what I can say in a very limited nutshell.
This is fantastic. I hear very, very positive comments. I see a vibrant ecosystem, and what struck me the most by having seen a few organizations here, and you guys touched a bit upon it, is it is amazing how well teams internally get along, having visited different organizations. And in the past, I've worked in different industries. Tony, you have too, as we discussed, and I haven't always seen this good vibe. So I think it's fantastic when you visit the organizations to see this good vibe. And I encourage you to continue with that, with this positive attitude in general, right? And this good vibe also among the different players if we want to take it a step further, because there's no other possible way. If we work in our own silos, it's simply not going to work. The different chains should work together, not only, for example, what Polygon is doing of different interconnected chains, but beyond that even, right? Tony, Noam, what are your thoughts after you've heard all these bright young minds?
Let me go first because I want to trigger something that for Tony to share. I just want to bring this a bit to ground level because we've discussed, good things, interoperability, that's nice. But I want to, I know we are speaking to people who are curious about blockchain, who are curious about what's in it for me, because I can instead be an AI developer. I see AI products, it's something that I can do. Why blockchain? And I just want to give you Tony's story on his behalf. He can correct me. He can correct me, at any point in time. But I find it very inspirational because he made a statement through this time that we have been together. And for those of you who don't know Hermez or Polygon, you should Google them. And then you'll understand why this story is so impactful. This time last year, there was no line of code in Hermez. Hermez is, as he has mentioned, a zero-knowledge proof mechanism for especially when you want to do with identity and credentials. Zero-knowledge proof is very amazing, but I don't want to go into those technicals. But the thing that stood out for me is that by this time last year, there was no single line of code. And that's how fast the industry is moving. But then between him and his team, they were able to consolidate this brilliant idea, put it together, and until a month ago, they were still doing their thing, and then they get a call from another big name in the blockchain space called Polygon. And long story short, I'm sure you'll see the first thing on your Google search will be the 250 million deal that Hermez closed with Polygon. Now that's just the tip of the iceberg of what can happen. That's a story that we can copy. That's a story that we can emulate. Why? Because we have the next 1 billion people. And so solving a problem at that scale, because that's what blockchain was waiting for. Blockchain was waiting for that one thing that will allow us to leap to the next billion, scalability, the thing that Tony has been talking about. Africa is not new to this kind of leapfrogging. We've done it with mobile technology. We've done it with mobile money. Blockchain has just simply added an extra tool that allowed us to do that with significantly less infrastructure. Because for us to do that for mobile money, guess what? We needed to put a site every 2 kilometers squared. And Umar was saying that, yeah, we were in telecom, and part of my work in telecom was to plan, to put sites in places to get coverage. But now, right now, with blockchain, you can access an unlimited number of people as long as your interface, as we've been talking about, as long as the user interface makes sense. And so there's a big opportunity there, making it relatable. I get asked this question, what do you do? What is blockchain? And it's like, explain to me blockchain. And I keep, my first answer is like, you actually don't want to know how blockchain works. That's the truth, because no one comes and asks me, how does the internet work? No. About 1% or less than 1% of people who use the internet know how it works. They just know the utility. Can I switch on an app and get connectivity? And that's where we're going. A few years ago, I said that this blockchain buzzword is going to end. Soon it's actually going to be a hindrance, as has been already explained. What people want to see is value. It just so happens that your delivery of value uses blockchain or crypto. But that is the story we want to tell, and that's the story we want to inspire young people to learn how to start building these solutions. There's a global shortage, Tony has just mentioned. There's a global shortage of blockchain developers. And according to a report by PwC called The Time for Trust, there is, I think, about $1.7 trillion worth of value that blockchain will unlock over the next 10 years. $1.7 trillion. And blockchain is a technology that doesn't know geographical limitations. Someone in Uganda here can solve a problem in Pakistan. And that can mean you tap into that 1.7 trillion. So it's not ethereal, it's not virtual, it's not up in the air and then you're left thinking that, this thing is too big. No, it's real. And by bringing our efforts together, which is what we're trying to do, bringing the likes of Kanzu Code, Refactory, Diwala, Cello, Polygon, GeoA, Scripter Savannah, what we are saying is that we are just too few here. We are too few for the potential that this industry brings. So I've told I've told Tony's story.
Tony, your story has been told, but I know you have many more. Would you like to add something, or should I move on with other questions?
No, very quick. I mean, a few things. First is yes, we have somehow won the lottery, but it's true also that there are milestones. Then, I mean, there is work to be done, and also here I think it's important that yes, of course, the money is always nice, but but that at all the moments we were focused on the product. I mean, I think that's the tricky. That honestly, I never thought that this would happen, and yes, we were only looking for a good solution for the customers. It's true also that it's bleeding edge technology. Also, we knew that we were on the vanguard. We were trying to go there, and because we as now I say that the identity is the next big bang that it's coming, no? Then the question is who will be able, for example, as we were discussing, to solve the problem of the KYC. Also, who will be able to solve the problem of credentials and proofs, and that you were explaining so well. But if you build up the product thinking on I will sell it tomorrow, I don't think you will be able to do it. I don't know. That's my view. That's one thing. The second is when you were speaking also about interoperability, I totally agree. I mean, if you want to reach out the next billion users, we need this transfer of transactions or of assets. Also, I mean, this is also when we developed Hermes. Hermes has massive migrations by design because we are believers on this. Then I totally agree with your point. And yes, for the moment, that's all.
Thank you, Tony. I'd like to take it to something that we're seeing everywhere, and then you also mentioned it. If we want to reach that billion users, or even 2 billion users, depending, it's that image of scams. Here you're lucky enough that there's a government that has gotten over that and is seeing that there's a tremendous potentiality. But as we discussed before, it's not always the case with different countries in the region, etc., or even most of the users who know a little bit about blockchain. And we tend to see that it's an impediment for people to want to be interested in blockchain, to want to get involved. So how can we as a community try to overcome that image? You've touched upon a couple of things, but I'd love to have your thoughts, particularly tailored to the Ugandan public. And it would be for any of you.
I could go first. Yes, scams are a big issue when you look at Africa in general. Now bring it home to Uganda, yes, we have had a multitude of scams. Some are even still alive today. You hear things of OneCoin, and people, it's like they have a cult around them. So what I've been able to understand from talking to people within the space is that the silver bullet to kind of deal with scams is education. If we educate masses, if we educate many people, if we educate as many as it takes to be able to understand basically what blockchain and cryptocurrencies are, then you have a fundamental layer. I would even call it herd immunity in as far as trying to protect the ecosystem goes. Because if we have this society that is educated and informed and can be able to tell the difference between a genuine cryptocurrency or a blockchain project and something that is simply a rug pull or a scam that is just there to go away with people's funds, you'll be able to have this self-protecting mechanism that even if Noah isn't there, even if it's somewhere in Kabali, but somebody was able to understand or able to get the fundamentals, they can be able to defend what blockchain is and be able to educate their communities there. So you kind of get this herd immunity going because there is viable education within the country. It could be meetups, it could be conferences, it could be podcasts like the Minuso podcast that we currently have. If we can get more of these things into the mainstream media, because some scammers actually do it on mainstream media. They're on radio talk shows, they're on television talk shows. So people see them and people do give them huge sums of money. But if you talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is just a small niche. It's somebody who is watching YouTube and maybe gets to understand that there's crypto Savannah somewhere and you can be able to get some Bitcoin off Binusu. But the scammers, they have, if I could talk about, say, OneCoin, because I really have a, yeah, I really have beef with OneCoin. They have kind of a cult mentality. They do drives, they take, I think this was before COVID, they would take whole caravans of convoys with branded cars with OneCoin on them to like a town like Mpiji. Now Mpiji is not exactly sophisticated. Mpiji is a farmer town, just on the outskirts of Kampala here. And people would gather there and they would say, Echinusu, 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 which is Uganda for coin. So they would get people to buy into this, and that would be the end of it. So the next time you hear people complaining, it's really too late. They have no source of redress. So I was like, if we'll be able to have an education initiative that is countrywide, whether it's a popular talk show on a radio that happens every Sunday that people get to listen about cryptocurrencies and this by a trusted personality, it would really help us kind of build this herd immunity that the community within Uganda is immune to scams. Even if some people haven't yet understood this, at least there's a significant number that have been educated. So education has to be tailored to the market, and this is what I see as the silver bullet that can effectively deal with scams.
Anyone else on this particular subject?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I completely agree again with Umar. Knowledge applied is power. When you have knowledge and you apply it. So I think for us to deal with the gaps that are there, there is need for us to move power into the hands of our communities by giving them the skill sets they need, the knowledge they need, and also shift their attention from the negative things they have been seeing to the positive side of the technology. Every technology has its positive and the negative. When we focus only on the negative, we may lose the profitability of the positives. I think there is need to go into schools, universities. These students are very, very intelligent. If they understand what this is all about, the different use cases of the technology, because blockchain is not just about cryptocurrency. Blockchain has a lot of use cases even to agriculture, which our parents are doing in the village. If we give them the right knowledge and right skill set of this technology, then we also become ambassadors of the technology countrywide. And I believe by so doing, we'll be able to overcome some of these gaps. Thank you.
I see everybody's particularly interested in this question. So let's keep it short and give you all the chance, and then we'll probably try to move to the next one, because we have so many topics to cover. Please go ahead, Thea.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. Knowledge is power. I also just want to bring some reality to it, is that we cannot stop scamming happening. Cannot happen, like, it's not possible. As long as there is people, it will be. So I think that's also very important to talk about, is like, how do we also build trust when bad things has happened? You know, that's a part of the educational journey, and understanding that it's just not because one thing has gone bad, you cannot trust anyone. And how can we go a step-by-step process as a part of that? Because it will happen no matter what. So I think that's one thing that, if anything, we should join forces together to understand what kind of knowledge should that be. Because we were not able to do it, right? And things can consistently happen. So more than anything, like, as a part of the blockchain alliance, these actors, it's understanding what are the good actors out there, showcasing that work by transparency, and understanding that the power of this technology also is that transparency, you know. So I think that's one factor to bring into it.
Thank you. Irene?
For me, it could be two things. One, I have heard of countries that have actually integrated blockchain education into their different education levels. And I think, you know, if if our education system can also do that, that would be one win, because the person from high school will understand at least the very basics of blockchain, what it is, how to avoid scammers. So that could be one win. Then secondly, like I said before, communicating the value of this type of technology. Yes, the scams are going to be there, like Thea has mentioned, but when we continuously communicate the value, that this type of technology increases security, it increases flexibility, and all these things, you find that, we'll go from, blockchain is related to fraud, to blockchain can actually avoid fraud. Yeah.
Thank you. Peter, Orban, real quick, if your comments are outside, I think the main point has been very clear. It's education, education, education.
Yeah, outside.
Are your points outside? If your points are outside of education, if not,
yes,
please go ahead.
But I'll keep it very brief. I think also another really, really key thing is people relate with value, in the sense that if you put something in front of them that's definitely delivering value as an app, a tool, they'll talk about it themselves. Very few people had to educate anyone on how to use WhatsApp. Very few people had to communicate to anyone how to use mobile money after it reached a certain threshold. So if we have apps and we're putting them in the hands of users, and those apps deliver actual value, I can send money from here to someone in Gulu at 50 Uganda shillings, versus if they are using mobile money. If I'm putting actual tools, actual USSD tools, apps that are delivering actual value, making things faster, cheaper, it changes things. And then it just so happens to be running on blockchain. But it's simple to use. Yeah?
Absolutely.
They might not even need to know that. It's simple to use, it delivers value, it's cheaper, it's faster. It just so happens to be running on blockchain.
Thank you. You've mentioned one of the key words in East Africa, mobile money. Everybody talks about mobile money around the world looking at East Africa, and you're an example for the rest of us. But what is the impact of mobile money on blockchain in Uganda? Do you see it as a competitor? Do you see it as a collaborator? Is it both? Is it barrier to entry? Is it a wide door that can help blockchain adoption? I'd love to have your thoughts on this one. You brought the subject out, so I guess it's only fair that you take the first question.
Will have some really good thoughts on this, but I feel it's a really powerful enabler, because one, it's helped us keep the heart of education in getting people to understand value, in the sense that I can receive money digitally. So digital money is no longer a huge concept. While the West had credit cards, we are still largely a cash-based economy. But mobile money has leveled that space and made it easy for anyone across the country. You can tell them you can get money on your phone, period. If we now switch the conversation to now bringing in blockchain and cryptocurrency and all those things, it's still, you're not bringing in a foreign concept. So it's a really good enabler in making it simple for anyone across the country to buy, if we're speaking specifically about cryptocurrency. So in that sense, I feel it's a really good partner in the journey towards adoption.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
I just want to ask the panel if anyone has actually had communications with the mobile money operators, Airtel, MTN here, and what have they said?
Yes, actually, I was talking to Airtel Uganda before the National Payment Systems Act came into force, and I was having some conversations with their head of mobile money at the time. So he was curious to know if this could really work, because I was trying to pitch Celo to them and showing them the value that Celo could bring to their operations in as far as the bottom line goes. So up until the point that the central bank took over mobile money, it was kind of, he was curious to know if this could really happen. So we were moving to have kind of a concept and a proof of concept, but then now we have to circle back on that because the landscape has changed. So from my experience, it was, they were receptive, they were curious, they were willing to experiment on this, and we actually have to circle back on this and see where we'll fall. Yeah. So it's.
Irene, please.
I believe Noah, you could have heard of yellow card. Yes, because in many of the marketing drives of yellow card, I've actually noticed that they are pushing, they have an integration with mobile money, Airtel and MTN. So I think that's something in the positive, I could say, that the fact that, you know, this wallet can be able to integrate with mobile money. So I think mobile money is definitely an enabler. Yeah.
Noah, you're also developing a wallet. We'd love to have your thoughts real quick, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Actually, the reality is that we have integrated with mobile money ever since Pinosu started. That's in 2016. And we've worked closely with the mobile money companies. And when you asked about where is blockchain, where is crypto in light of mobile money, the future is that they will merge. It's going to be that scenario whereby you can send money from one place to another. It just so happens that it's blockchain powered. And it would be naive to think that they haven't thought about this. These are organizations that have a lot of money in R&D. They're already experimenting with it. So the plan is there. Because if you understand how mobile money works, it works through USSD, which is not secure, SMS, and that's why it's both the most popular, but also where the most fraud happens, and because of the nature in which it is secured. So as a technology, it will evolve. Whether it runs on a distributed ledger, yeah, it makes it easier. To me, I see that as a very quick path to get there. But once it's there, then interesting things can happen. It'll be actually a very interesting thing, because if you look at the trend right now for financial services, banks are becoming tech companies are becoming banks. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, right now the biggest bank in the country has set up a tech company, a fintech, and now via the Payments Act, it's just that it has done it in a very interesting way. You know, now mobile money is now a financial institution. Who knew 10 years ago that was where the trajectory is going? So if you look at that trend and extrapolate it the next 10 years, very interesting things are going to happen to the banking sector, to the financial sector. And that's a good thing. Because of the openness of these technologies that we're working with, the transparency, should they be implemented in an open way, it's going to allow for immense innovation. It's going to allow for even small companies to start taking part in this big business. But that's okay. That's looking at it from a hopeful perspective. These are private companies that are out to make a profit, and so should there be a deviance in that path, they will also have very strong competition from cryptos, because right now in DeFi, you basically have a bank which is code. And that bank is infinitely cheaper than a bank that has branches or that has a very expensive network. And so it's a very good time to be in this space, very good time to start solving problems in this space, and because the future is bright. So I think, they can't avoid it. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Only about this, for me one remark is, I have worked 18 years in a bank, and the last time on digital development, and I don't think they will win this race. Honestly, I think because they are so slow, and I know that they want to become fintech, or they want to because they see, well, I see more easy that the Facebook or Google or Apple, they take over the position of the banks, that the opposite way. But nevertheless, I think that the winner is not yet known. I mean, it's a small startup growing somewhere, and if they are able, they should understand the user. They have no burdens or no constraints, or they have a future, and I think they will be the winners.
I think we've talked enough about banks, right? And we've talked enough about money. Where can we go in Uganda with blockchain beyond DeFi? How can we help local communities? How can we make a difference? This is what most of us are here for. What are your thoughts specifically to the Ugandan community? We have been very lucky over the past few days to travel with Noah across the country. We've visited refugee camps, we've talked about cocoa plants, we've seen a number of potential opportunities, right? What are your thoughts beyond DeFi? Decentralized.
Decentralized
Yes,
finance.
good point. Perhaps the first person who picks up the microphone could give us a brief definition for our audience of decentralized finance, and then take a first stab at answering that question, which will also give more time for the rest of us to think about the answer.
Yeah. So when you ask where do we take blockchain beyond DeFi, I think we can take it very far. We need to look at other sectors like health. It's a good application of a blockchain use case in the health sector. And I believe that there are tools that we can develop on the blockchain network to be able to empower the patients, that is number one, but also how doctors are doing their daily activities. At Refactory, one of the projects that our students have been working on is, we call it Care Hub. Care Hub is a kind of a health companion that emotionally supports people that are suffering from, say, psychological related issues, but also life-threatening conditions. We connect them with survivors of those similar conditions for them to be able to share coping mechanisms, but also be able to support someone that stigmatization or that aspect of feeling lonely. You have someone that you are connecting with. We started using basic technologies like Node.js and then JavaScript, but as we modeled the project, we discovered that if we put this actually on the blockchain, it will do more better because we're looking at the security aspect of it. You are dealing with a lot of people's data here. So we believe that there are a lot of solutions in the healthcare systems that, or healthcare sector that blockchain can actually enable, and we see the better feature of the country. We could also look at supply chain. It's another interesting area where I see the future of blockchain from manufacturers to the consumers. That whole track, blockchain can be a very, very good enabler or empower the people. Just to mention but a few. Thank you.
So we have two examples. We mentioned health. We mentioned value chains. Anything else particular to the Ugandan ecosystem?
Yes, particularly to the Ugandan ecosystem, corruption. Yeah, and unfortunately we have I don't know if it's an epidemic, but corruption is really a huge problem within Uganda. So I would cite an example here of something that blockchain has helped us solve. We had the East Africa East Africa United Nations UNODC. It was last year. It was a youth hackathon based out of Kenya, but it was virtual. And they had applications coming in from all of East Africa and some folks from West Africa. The idea was to build something on blockchain that could be able to tackle corruption within our various governments. So we had two tracks. We had IBM Hyperledger and Celo. So I take great pride in saying that the winning solution was built on Celo, and it was from a team that came from Uganda. Very brilliant young developers. The solution is called WatchGuard, and it seeks to provide a platform that you can be able to whistleblow on anybody that is having graft or doing something that is corruption related. So the idea is that they use the anonymity of blockchain to obscure the person blowing the whistle, and additionally, you can also get tipped for your whistleblowing in cryptocurrency. So the solution is currently pending implementation, but we do have some commitments from the Ministry of ICT with the folks at Crypto Savannah to take this forward once we kind of get a platform to work on this. So it's something that is critical to seeing that we tackle corruption, and blockchain is one tool that we have in the arsenal to be able to tackle this. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that.
I'll just bridge on the last one,
Jump in.
So what we're working on right now is actually, we've done it once and we're continuing doing it, is building credentials for small to medium-sized businesses, as I said. So understanding what kind of credential we can showcase to make sure a startup here or a medium-sized business actually can get access to finance. So that is showing different digital proof. That can be organization number, it can be a TIN number. It can also just be a set of skill sets or like from a lawyer, you know, to make sure that you can actually de-risk a company's ability to access finance. Because one of the biggest challenges, one, as I know as a founder, but also second, if you're a Ugandan company, like people don't understand this market, right? They don't have the knowledge to understand like, okay, what is it here? Are you talking like, we don't have anything to benchmark from, which then is essential to bring that kind of data forward to make sure they can make a more knowledgeable decision. Yeah.
And just to add on to what Thea is saying, it's very important to understand the problem. To understand the problem, to understand the beneficiaries of whatever technology that you are trying to build. And if you ask me, the value that blockchain technology has, it can be applied to each and every sector. The financial sector, the legal sector, the transport sector. I like cars, and the other day I was hearing about a company that is using blockchain technology to track the mileage of cars. And if you have bought a car before in a bond, you know that the mileage is tampered with. So if you think about it, each and every sector can make use of blockchain technology. But how it can best be able to do that is to understand the problem. And that's why for a while, for years, I met Thea 3 years ago. We didn't have a solid product. We were researching because we wanted to understand the problem. And many of us techies, we go in, build this product, you know, put in our resources, and because we haven't understood the beneficiaries of this product, we actually find out that we fail. But when we understand the problems, my oh my, it's interesting what blockchain technology will do.
Absolutely. Irene, you mentioned a word that we all use every single day, struggle. You've all been working on different projects, companies, ideas, and been very successful with them. And it's easy to say it now, right? And I guess we still all have a long way to go. But when you say struggle, what have been the challenges that you have personally faced when you started all of this? I really liked one where you mentioned it was about finding the problem, right? Seeing it at it from a user perspective, etc. But I'd really like to take, I think this is one that everybody can answer very briefly, because we all have had that experience, and perhaps we can take 1 or 2 minutes to think about that one. What has been the biggest challenge that you have faced in your work in this industry? Would you like to kick it off?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for us, really, one of the biggest challenges was, the first one was trying to find what to apply it to, because we're already in the financial space and we knew that this is where the industry is going, but how do we apply all that stuff to a particular problem that our users will understand? But then more specifically, beyond that was access to financing for us to get into that space. Because it actually, there are R&D costs involved in that. And really, for a startup, you have to, where is that money going to come from? Because you put out a product, but before it starts to make money, does that extra feature justify you investing in it? And thankfully, we got that grant that helped us get past that hurdle. And without that, I can't see us having jumped headfirst into this. That grant really changed a lot for us. And then now getting into it very quickly, building now the skills, that was really, really huge. Because yes, there's a lot on the internet, but you know, how do you now apply that and contextualize it to what you're actually building? So I'll just leave those two, the finance and then the skills.
Thank you, Peter. Let's keep the grants one. That's a very interesting one that we will use as a follow-up. Orban.
Yes, so to refactor, I think is building the skills. That is the major challenge. Yes, we have these young people that are willing to learn, but who to train them? So we don't actually have identified facilitators or teachers to be able to pass the right skills onto the people. I think that is the major challenge we have been facing.
Thank you. Irene?
I think I would say change management, because when you come in with a system, you find a system that's already there. So trying to move people from that system to this new system. And because we are so aware of that challenge, even the way we have built our system is that, yes, it's meant to provide digital credentials, but we have also enabled institutions and the students or recipients the credential recipients to be able to download and get, the physical paper. And we are understanding that we need to go from the known to the unknown, to be able to deal with that challenge.
Yeah.
Time.
Full stop.
People wasting my time and our time. So I don't have time. I am very patient. But the thing is, I see this need today. I know these people. I speak to these people, even around in my, in my neighborhood. I don't have this time. I want to work with people that wants to work, not waste each other's time. And I think as a part of that can be a huge international organization saying, well, we need a certain amount of capital because of our administration fees and how we're operating. It can be in actors that saying that's just slow, right? The way they operate. But more importantly, it's just, we need to start by action. And I think that's the one thing that I've been so privileged to work with, and specifically also in the Ugandan community. We move forward, and the people that we worked for actually took that step. They worked with us from when we had nothing. They tested the prototypes like Refactoring and Clark University did. We were there and we built it step by step. And that's the only way we move forward. We do it. Because as he's mentioned, a startup or a company like ours, we don't have unlimited resources. When you take time, that builds into our process, and we have people expecting us to do certain things at a certain time. And we need to then explain, but it's this and this, So let's be more efficient.
Thank you, Thea. Umar?
For me, I would say, as somebody working in business development, it would be two factors: regulation and policies. Regulation being that I would say the regulator, would say Bank of Uganda, up to until the time they enacted the National Payment Systems Act, which doesn't exactly touch on crypto, but at least it does have some framework that you can work with. There was really no foundation that you could have a conversation with them. But now that this is in place, now we can work around that. But prior to that, it was quite a challenge. So when it comes to policies, this is to do with issues like barriers to entry, like the pricing for the internet and taxes that are around that. It's been a challenge trying to get people who are essentially unbanked to get MBs to attend maybe an event. It's really hard. Data in Uganda is not exactly cheap, and that is something that we can be able to address at policy level, lower taxes per se. Then also something to do with, which could actually tie in with both, Uganda is currently on the grey list for the Financial Action Task Force because we have some loopholes in our KYC and AML national policies. So this being the case, we have limitations on cash in, cash out providers. Companies like Ramp, companies like Simplex cannot be able to provide cash in, cash out for Uganda. So this has been a bit of a challenge, but luckily we have very good mission-aligned partners like Binusu, which are helping us work that out. But that's generally what I see as the key challenges that I've faced.
Thank you. Tony?
Yes, I think the main ones have been pointed, but to be concrete, no? I mean, scarcity of talent, lack of sleep or lack of time. I mean, yeah. Then trying to explain why the solution is good for the customer, but at the same time, somehow thinking that what you have designed in your room's idea should fit what the client needs. Then, for this reason, for example, we are doing this research with Eduard and his organization. And yes, and the last one will be the pushback from regulators and incumbents. Totally. I mean, here I see also that there is an especially with with regulators. I have been working a lot in the last months with the European Parliament, the FCA in UK, also with the World Bank in Washington. I mean, we need to explain. We need to explain because if we don't do, nobody will do. And if nobody do that, this is not going to be adopted. Then we should go there. Is sometimes, well, I cannot say that, but it's a little bit a waste of time, or it's really, it's really tough. But should be done. Then that's it.
No.
Actually, what Tony has said is what my comment would have been. It's taking Thea's point on time, but then also adding, looking at it from the other side, that there needs to be time to bring in, because I know in the crypto space there's this regulation phobia or regulation anxiety, but there is no way we will develop if we don't have regulation. Regulation is what protects the masses. It was, as poorly as they execute it, they're always well-meaning, and so there needs to be that patience. That person has to sacrifice. You know, we all need a Jesus somewhere who needs to die for everyone, so that so other people don't have to die. And so the taking that painful step, as Tony has mentioned, to painfully sit through meetings with regulators, you know, them confusing Bitcoin for blockchain, then calling it chain block, then as in someone has to do that. Someone has to do that. Someone has to go through those board meetings and be the only one speaking. Someone has to do that for the future, for the growth of this industry. Because if we don't, they will use their limited information and 3 or 4 Google searches to pass regulation. And then that will affect us. So, yeah, that's a pain that has to be done, but someone's got to do it, you know, and then the ecosystem will grow.
Guys, I have no idea how to solve your time problem. I can't stretch time. None of us can. We can be more efficient about it. But there's one thing that can be stretched. It's funding, right? How easy has it been for you guys to get funding? Is funding a problem? What are your main funding streams? What are your thoughts on funding when you start an organization in Uganda?
Is that specific to blockchain or
Yes.
general? Yeah, so thankfully we got in touch with Umar here from, so as Council Code were already somehow on the peripheral. We knew of Crypto Savannah and we knew of Celo, and we're already quite interested, so we're showing up for talks. So because of that, it wasn't hard per se, yeah, in the sense that we already had it, we're already also in the financial technology space. So once we zeroed down on this is something we can do, and then we looked for the first opportunity that came up from the individuals we're already interacting with, because we're already interacting with the Celo ecosystem. We reached out to them, and they already knew us. So from that perspective, it wasn't hard, so to speak. Maybe it might have been different if we didn't know if any of these players exist. If we didn't know about Crypto Savannah, if we didn't know about Celo, it would probably have been a very different case. But if I'm to speak specifically for ourselves, it wasn't hard because of those 2 reasons. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else on this important question?
That's a bit of a complex problem. So in reality, we've been very blessed. We have great investors. We also have the privilege of the Norwegian Development Funds that's supported our early research and development, which always needs to be matched with investment funding, which is the headache in itself. Just because those 2 worlds think completely different, right? So the way you count and work with grants is completely different than the way investors want you to use grants. So because that's such a big gap between those 2, that's quite an issue, because you need to support those grants usually with a certain amount of investment capital. There is huge opportunity, and there's a lot of capital actually that's accessible towards specifically the blockchain space, and it's becoming more specifically now, huge inclination of it. But I think
there is an issue with that money coming in the hands of the wrong people. In a way that like the wrong startups, that's just because they have the background XYZ or they come out of MIT, excuse me, but true. While I see maybe like a brilliant startup here in Uganda that should get it, right? So I think it's helping investors, like I mentioned, to showcase those people that are actually moving forward. Because like for us also, we're in here for the long term. I'm here for the pain. But as a part of that, funding is a challenge where you need to also grow the gap beyond proof of concept. That's the real challenge, like actually growing a business, both in terms of talent and understanding the efficiency and the systems and the way the companies to grow. That's both in terms of capital and also skills. And that's a big challenge, non-dependent on what kind of business you're building. And specifically in this space when you're also talking about new technology, you're trying to build data models that's essential and new for this that hasn't been done before, you need more time, right? Which is what money sometimes can buy.
Absolutely. Tony, you brought this one up, developers, talent. What do you guys think about the capacity of developers in Uganda? Do you work mostly with Ugandan developers? Do you sometimes link to international ones? When an Ugandan developer is potentially stuck with a problem, how do they solve it? Where do they go and get their solutions? How can the Ugandan developers be supported? Irene,
well, okay.
you seem to be wanting to take this one.
Well, and I'll speak from our story as Diwala. Well, you know, the way we got into all this, we didn't get in as experts, right? So even for us, we believe that we can, you know, you can get great talent that has potential and then work with that talent to build and grow it. And, you know, our CTO sits in Norway. As, I think Noah knows him as Noah, and he's a blockchain expert. And, you know, we have garnered all these different people across the African continent. We have a lady in Nigeria. We have someone in Kenya, and we will have some more people in Uganda. And, you know, as we work with them over the years, we actually notice that they have exponentially grown. So sometimes you may not get 100%, but if someone is willing to grow, if someone has the basic skills to learn, invest in them, and you'll be amazed at what you'll get out of them. So is there a lot of potential in Uganda? Yes, there is, but that potential needs to be believed in.
I think I'll lean in. Thank you very much, Irene, for that. I'll just lean in on that. It's really, there's a lot of raw potential, and the role then is primarily on the organization to identify, which goes beyond the technical skills, looking at what some people typically refer to as the soft skills, because a lot of organizations, even now in Uganda, are working remotely. So identifying people who have a match of both aspects, and then putting in place an enabling environment for those who are already passionate, to give them the right tooling, give them the devices, and then give them big challenging problems, and then give them support. So the talent is there. There are so many young people who are very talented. The aspect, though, of organizations thinking like that, not expecting to find superstars who already have it made, but actually believing that these people are actually good. There are some time wasters, yes, but then your hiring process should be able to eliminate them so that you actually find the gems who are really aplenty, and then train them. But then more than that, you then also need to find a way beyond giving them Stack Overflow and access to O'Reilly and Coursera. How do you partner them with, once in a while, external experts? Because for a very niche field like this, like blockchain, there will be times you'll run into an issue, and because you're still learning the craft, you might not have all the answers, even just by going to blockchain, to all these courses, where you want even just a 30-minute session to get unblocked. And in our case, we have resources. So there's Crypto Savannah, people who've gone before us. We have the Celo community. So basically being plugged into communities where you can go and post a specific question. You're not going to need to do that every time, but once in a while, once a month, you'll hit a big blocker, and you need an expert who's gone before you to actually help you get past that aspect. So it's a combination of that, both the company thinking a certain way and then having one or two experts in communities. And the beauty about the blockchain communities, they are very open. So plugging into these communities and being an active part, you're not just a consumer, being an active part, and then also asking when you need some help.
Thank you. We slowly have to wrap it up. We have one question that has come from our online audience. It's very specific, so we'll see if anyone can answer it. Is what are the possibilities in Uganda for the legal sector in blockchain? How can the legal sector improve thanks to blockchain?
Well, I think the biggest component there is actually being with us in this communication with government. We've talked to a couple of law firms here, and that's also what we're actively doing, because they need to be in the communication, they need to learn, need to understand, and the language also needs to be translated in a way that the policy is adaptable for this kind of technology. And that's where I see the biggest, we need lawyers in that, right? Because they're there to help both governments and us. So I think that's, please, you're most welcome.
Great. Tony, Noah, and dear friends, we're coming to the end of this panel. I would like to invite you both perhaps to make a closing remark, and then perhaps we can continue offline and have a bit of a chat. Noah, please, and then we'll pass it on to Tony.
Thank you. As I close, I'll just share my thoughts on the legal, on how lawyers, I deal with them quite a bit from the good side. Yeah, but just trying to encourage them to look into technology. And a good friend lawyer of mine was complaining that lawyers are always the last ones to get called to a party. So because blockchain has, again, it's a technology that's going to revolutionize so many things. And not to go too much into detail, but these things called smart contracts. These are self-executing, legal, terms and conditions. So that can be programmed into a blockchain, can be programmed into a piece of software where you can basically enter into a contract without a lawyer. Now, many lawyers get scared that, now this is going to replace lawyers. Like, no, these smart contracts need to be built by people. Right now, they're being built by coders, but they don't know too much about the law. So that bridge between programmers, coders, and the law, and just bringing that connection to life is where a big opportunity is. Smart contract audits, being able to look at the soundness, because people are going to enter into legally binding agreements with code, and who do you have, to put their stamp of approval, their seal of approval. So there is an upskilling needed, definitely, for the lawyers, but there's a huge opportunity for you to carve out new service provision around building these automated systems. Again, but to my closing remarks, we have definitely not done justice to scratching even the surface of what can be done in this. But hopefully we have sparked conversation that can continue even online. Many of these people are online, they're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook, and just engaging them. One of the key things that I'm hoping that GeoAnalytics leaves here with, that Polygon Hermez leaves with, is that Uganda is primed for a blockchain revolution. I mean, we said this in 2018, and we are coming back and saying that we actually have use cases. One of the things that we were challenged with at our conferences is show us something. We keep saying education, but as we've clearly seen, education only makes sense once there is a connection between my problem and your solution. Once your solution meets my problem, I don't care how you're doing it, whether it's blockchain, crypto, Polygon, whatever it is, it has solved my problem. And we have demonstrated in this country that there is immense potential. When I first met Thea, she was in her R&D phase, and we were discussing how blockchain is going to be real. There's a product now, okay? When you first talked about how blockchain can work with savings communities, it was just an idea, but now there's a product. You see, when Celo first came, for our in 2019, Celo wasn't even mainnet; it hadn't even gone mainnet. But now we have, just a year and 2 years down the road, we're building products on Celo and all this. So my message to the world, my message to Polygon, my message to us is that Uganda is primed. But that also comes with huge responsibilities. And the task is at hand. The funding is there. We just need to attract it and convert it into real life use cases. Thanks.
Okay. Well, what I can say is thanks. I mean, I have learned a lot. I see that there is a huge energy, or a lot of energy, and a huge community trying to move this forward. Then what I can say is that also I see that from different parts of the world we are trying to fix the same thing. And I think I'm thinking how we can establish the right networks, connections to avoid waste of resources and to increase synergies. No. But as we have said, the raw material is here. You have, or this country has the potential. That's clear to me. As I was discussing previously, the next billion users or 2 billion will come from Africa, the major part of them, or a huge part. LATAM or maybe Asia will be also there, but a huge part will come from Africa, that we agree. And yes, what I can say is please, if we can help, reach out to us. Thanks for your time and all your explanations. It has been really inspirational. And yes, and we are open to work with other projects. Look for new solutions, and yes, I hope we'll come back to Uganda. Then thanks for your time.
With Tony's closing remarks and with Noah's closing remarks, we will end this discussion and perhaps have a quick tea or a drink. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating online, and thanks Uganda for the incredible warm welcome that we have received. Bye-bye.